Hi, this is Moyna Bass Fishes, and I'm Jim Moyna. Hello. Okay, we're going to talk about this whole cheating business and tournament fishing. Okay, this whole topic came to light here last weekend. I think it was last Friday, where in this walleye tournament, these guys tried to weigh fish with lead stuffed down their throats, and they got busted in rather dramatic footage. Okay, if you want to see this footage, just go to Google walleye cheaters, and you'll find all kinds of videos on this. So, and try to watch the full one where you actually see them bring the fish up to the weigh-in and then weigh their fish and then go off the stage, and then they cut them open next to the stage. Quite dramatic. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to talk about just my takeaways from watching that video and listening to what Jason has said in subsequent podcasts that I've watched. And then I'm going to get into basically some ideas that I have and others have as far as what can be done to minimize cheating in fishing tournaments. All right, so first of all, I guess we're never going to completely eliminate cheating in fishing tournaments. It's just in any sport, every sport has cheats. Okay, that's just the nature, human nature. For some individuals, just have it wired in their brain that they have to cheat in whatever competition they're participating in. It's sad but true. It sucks. I mean, in this case, with this walleye tournament or any fishing tournament, you're stealing. You're stealing from your fellow competitors right there. You're literally stealing by taking the prize money. You're taking away from other deserving people who did it the right way, who did it by the rules. You're taking money out of their pockets. So you're stealing, okay? And then you have the secondary effect where the sport takes a big black eye, especially when it's publicized like this walleye thing was. The whole sport takes a big black eye. So now you're going to have potentially sponsors. Maybe there's a sponsor that was thinking about getting into fishing, and now they're like, no, we can't get involved with that. Look at these clowns. Or you might have sponsors that are already in the sport, and now they want to get out of the sport because of what they see. So you're taking away from the fishermen who benefit from those sponsorships, whether it's a tournament trail that's trying to garner a sponsor or an individual. Now you're taking away their opportunities. So cheaters, you really are hurting everybody but yourselves, because you only care about yourselves. You only care about your own stupid damn ego and your stupid damn bank account that, for whatever reason, you can't get. I mean, whatever. Fucking cheaters. Anyhow, so I got it. Okay, once you see this footage, I mean, before I even saw Jason on these podcasts, he did appear on 2 podcasts that I've seen. One is called Big Water Podcast, and another one is Ike Live Podcast. So there you can actually see Jason interviewed by these hosts of these podcasts and get some of the clear details, because you'll see, if you go to Google and watch all, I mean, you'll see some live, the actual raw footage. That's why you want to go there. But to really get to the bottom of the story, you should watch those podcasts. Just they ask some good questions. Of the tournament director's name is Jason Fitcher. And before I even saw those podcasts, after I watched the raw footage, I was like in admiration of Jason. He was animated. His emotions were raw. He wasn't necessarily cool-headed. But I don't care. I would have been pissed off too. I mean, I would have been irate, pissed off. And the anglers that were still in attendance at the weigh-in that saw this, a lot of them were pissed off. And who wouldn't be? I mean, my God. But I mean, those guys are the cheaters. I think, what was his name? Jake Runyon, and was it the other one? His last name was Comiskey, Jason Comiskey, or no, Jacob Comiskey. Anyways, those guys, man, cheaters. So, but anyways, the tournament director, Jason Fisher, did an awesome job of doing. I mean, he knew something was up, he knew something wasn't right, and he took action, and he didn't try to hide it. What happens is the guys weigh the fish, they're crown the winners of the angle of the year and everything else, the winners of the tournament. Goes off, their fish are carried off stage. Jason suspects something, so he says, hey, you guys just go over there with your fish. Jason comes over with a knife, starts cutting them open, pulling lead weights out of the fish, and that's how we got to where we're at now with this. And the news went viral for sure. So, but Jason did a great job. I'm so happy. I mean, it's so cool that he did this in the open. He's transparent about it. He did it right there, right next to the weighing stage for everybody to see this go down, because he knew something was wrong with what was going down with those fish, and he wasn't shy about it. He wasn't trying to cover it up. He just freaking laid it all out there, right there. Love how you did that, Jason. Always be transparent, and transparency in rule enforcement to me is really important. When you're finding violations of rules, don't hide it. I feel like some leagues will try to hide things. They try to just keep it hush hush, and then that leaves the other anglers that hear rumors about this stuff, and we know all about rumors. A lot of them are. Some of them actually lead to the actual fire, but some rumors are just plain not right. I mean, I can give you a rumor about myself that wasn't right. There was a time back in the 90s in early 2000s where I was doing really well on tournaments at Lake Minnetonka here in Minnesota. And somehow, it was all totally legit, how I always do it. But in conversation to somebody, like a few years later, probably like in the late 2000s, somebody told me that I'd won all those tournaments because I was sinking lawn chairs out in Lake Minnetonka to draw the fish to these lawn chairs as cover. Totally bogus. I don't know how the rumor ever got started. I mean, how it got started is a rumor in itself. How that supposedly an angler was using an underwater camera and found a lawn chair on one of the places where I fish. So that could be how the rumor got started, but I had no idea there was a lawn chair there on that spot. I don't know of any other lawn chair in Lake Minnetonka. And I just kind of laughed it off, but it brought to the realization to me that, gosh, yeah, you got to be careful with these rumors because they are not always true. How many are true, how many are not true, who knows, but just be careful with the rumors because they're not always true. But anyways, with that said, there is a rumor of guys failing there's stuff being disclosed in lie detector tests that are resulting in fines to these anglers, but the league's never disclosing what's going on. And that just creates a cloud of suspicion among the other competitors. Because when I hear these rumors, and they're just rumors, but I've heard it. I've heard this rumor of these fines occurring as a result of what's being disclosed in the lie detector tests. I've heard it from so many angles. And not only that, I was randomly chosen to be put on a lie detector this year. And I actually asked the lie detector person about this because I had heard about these rumors before even going into this. And I asked them, I said, hey, is there anything to this fact? I mean, are there people being fined as a result of what's being disclosed? And And basically, the lie detector person said, yeah, there's stuff being disclosed that are violations and fines are happening. But us as competitors, are not being clued in as to what are these violations, who's doing them. It's like, come on, be transparent. Transparency goes a long way in the credibility as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, yeah, I think the fact that this walleye thing happened, these cheaters got exposed, it's a good thing for the sport. It's a black eye for right now. It's a black eye in that there's going to be sponsors probably that get cold feet about the whole tournament scene, and either pull out or don't participate, whatever. It is a black eye. It hurts us all. Hurts the credibility of our sport. Hurts the credibility of fishermen and pro fishermen in general. However, overall, I think it's a good thing, because to have integrity in your competition, we all need to be aware that this stuff goes down. I remember my early days as a pro fisherman. I was very naive to the occurrence of cheating. I just didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to hear about it. I thought everybody was on the up and up, but it just only takes a handful of stories, a handful of confirmed incidences to, at least in my mind, to change my mind. And now I'm very aware of it, and I'm not going to turn a blind eye to things I might see, to things I might hear. So anyways, and that's one thing we can do, is just be aware like that. So another takeaway from this video at this walleye weigh-in, it's just actually a curiosity of human behavior, what goes down. Okay, these Runyon and Comiskey, I mean, they've been under suspicion for cheating amongst their colleagues, amongst their fellow competitors, amongst tournament directors for a while. Okay, so these guys, when they bring their fish on stage, if they have enough weight, they're going to be team of the year and they're going to win the tournament. So this is like the crowning moment. This is of the season. This is the drama of the season. All comes down to this. You got somebody who's going to be the winners and somebody who's going to be the losers for the biggest jewels of the trail. So these guys get up on stage. The tournament director, Jason's trying to make a dramatic show of it. But the crowd is silent. The fish are put on the scale. The weights are announced. They're the winning. They totally blow it open. They win it, win the tournament. They win Angler of the Year. Nobody in the crowd is applauding. Nobody in the crowd is cheering. If anything, you hear some hecklers in the crowd. And the most noticeable thing to me is the reactions of, I don't know where Comiskey was at this time, but it was just Runyon who was up on the stage. His reaction, there was no reaction. The guy just stood there like he's, I don't know, watching a hummingbird suck hummingbird juice out of a hummingbird feeder. I mean, there's no reaction out of him. Like, the dude just won. He just won Angler of the Year and the tournament. Where's his, yeah, fist pumps? Where's his reaction? I was like, holy shit. This guy's got nothing. The guy's just dead up there. So it's like, wow. I guess when you don't work your ass for something, and when you cheat to get something, it's no surprise when you win. When you cheat to the level they did, and you actually are successful at cheating, I guess there is no reward. There is no excitement. There is no reward. And that's what you saw on Runyon's face and his body language. You saw nothing. The guy had no reward. Cheating does not fucking pay off. That's for damn sure. And then now the human behavior that follows is also interesting, because now the fish are carried off stage. The tournament director, who at this point suspects something is up, directs them over to the side of the stage, with the fish and stay there. Then Jason, the tournament director, shows up with the knife and cuts him open. He just, his emotions are not contained. And at first there's like just a couple people standing there, but then all the other competitors start surrounding. I don't know where Comiskey is at this point. He's freaking heading for the hills probably. But Runyon's standing right there, and you just hear his fellow competitors just rip into him verbally. And of course he's in shock. Runyon's in shock. He's just standing there in disbelief, probably playing it all out in his mind, how he's pretty much, this is, he's never going to be in another tournament again in his life. And the realization that he was busted was just, the dude was just stood there in shock. And, but then you got to hand Jason Fisher, the director, again, you got to hand him, give him props again for actually controlling the crowd. I mean, if the right people were in that crowd, Runyon would have got a major ass whooping, like major. And really, and that really would have made things muddy, really would have made messy for a lot of people. So, and it would have took away from the story of cheating. It would have been just as much about the beatdown that happened as the cheating. So let's keep the cheating in focus, and Jason did a great job of that. He actually announced to the guys, hey, don't touch these guys. Eventually the cops got there. Cops escorted Runyon and Comiskey out of there without anybody having to be pressed for assault. And no emergency vehicles had to be called as far as ambulances. So that was a win there. That was a win. Nobody got hurt. Nobody's going to have to be charged with assault. Although, if those two took a major beat down, I would not have cared one bit. Although, I mean, it's, yeah, but then you start thinking of the children they have, you start thinking about the family they have, and, you don't, I mean, they have families, man, so it's to wish upon them a beatdown is, when you start thinking about those things, it's hard to actually wish that upon them. So anyhow, good job, Jason, of getting them out of there safe, I guess. So okay, so what can be done? Enough of my reactions to the actual video. Now, what can I suggest? And these aren't necessarily my own. Some of these are my own suggestions, but some of them are just common suggestions that we all know. And let's just talk about what tournament directors can do, or tournament organizations can do. First of all, they need to be aware of all the methods of cheating that can happen. The blatant over-the-top cheating, like with what we saw with stuffing lead down the fish, or just, the more subtle forms of cheating that can occur regarding, for example, like off-limits areas, or no information type rules. Be aware of how anglers can circumvent these things to cheat, okay? For example, what are some of the over-the-top? And this is, I'm not educating anybody on this. This is stuff you can go to Google and read all about. But some of the common forms of cheating, blatant cheating, sinking fish baskets in a lake. This is where you sink a container of fish, or sink a container, catch fish, throughout the week or from another lake, whatever. Put them in there. This is before days before the tournament, and then you actually, during the competition, you go to this fish basket, haul the basket up, take the fish out of the basket, put them in your live well. Yeah, I'm so proud of you. And then weigh them in and collect your prize money. Way to go. You're so awesome. So one thing tournament directors need to do for this is, if you see a team repeatedly, a successful team repeatedly bring fish to the weigh-in that are beat up looking, you know those fish have been in a cage or in some kind of basket, because over a certain amount of time, a fish will like get a big round sore on their nose and their fins will get kind of ratty on the ends. But you have to be careful with this, because fish can get a ratty tail during the spawn. People can catch released fish. So, because I've caught fish that look absolutely beat up, okay? And so it does happen where you catch these funky looking, just beat the crap looking fish. It is a real thing. So that is something to be aware of. So you just, an occurrence of one time is not, is not concerned to, throw blame at somebody immediately that instance. But you have to just be aware that if somebody's repeatedly bringing up fish that look like they got, maybe it's like way past the spawn when fish are normally in healthy condition. If they're bringing fish that with ratty fins, beat up nose, that's a clue that something's going on. So keep that in mind. What other ways? Guys can swap fish, during the competition. They get together towards the end of the day. The best fish are given to one boat and not the other. That's another way. How would you deter that? That's just, as a tournament director, I don't know how you would deter that. But that is something that can happen and has happened. What else? There's, of course, the stuff in the lead weight in the fish. Maybe we should see some metal detectors at weigh-ins, so we can detect for lead inserts, any kind of metal. But how would you detect non-metal inserts? That's a little more tricky. I don't know how you would, but be aware. People can shove things. I mean, there's stuff I read online while I was just kind of researching for this video. There's guys that have been accused of stuffing ice in fish and just other things. So not all of it's metal. So how do you detect that? What else? Live bait. Okay. How do you, guys can use live bait. How do you deter that? Well, this isn't so easy, but and maybe a lot of this stuff can be deterred this way by having boat inspections. Okay. Maybe what needs to be done is, logistically, maybe not every boat can be inspected, but maybe at the, after everybody's launched, maybe there's that time where people are waiting to launch, or waiting, they've already launched. There's always that period of time before you take off. So maybe the tournament officials can take aside a handful of boats and go through them head to toe. Like, for instance, like Bassmaster does an insurance check, okay? They check some of the anglers for that they have proper insurance. Well, maybe they can also check, just go through the compartments in their boat. Make the anglers sign a waiver saying, I agree to have random boat inspections. Okay, they take a couple boats aside, go through maybe they go through part of the boat, maybe they go through the whole thing, open up compartments, see what's in there. If suddenly they see all these half-pound lead balls in the boat, that's maybe a tip-off of something awry. Or who knows what else. Just something, just be aware of the unusual. The unusual is not always a direct path to actual cheating, but the unusual can maybe raise a red flag and, just awareness. What else? Stuffing fish, swapping fish, live bait. these are just, some of the things. What else? What else can tournament guys do, or tournament organizations, tournament directors? Well, they got the polygraph. Okay, the polygraph is, I encourage that tool. It can reveal some things. It's not admissible in court. They're not perfect. They're very scary for anglers to do. I've done them 6 times. 3 times that I've done it, it was part of the Fort Francis Canadian Bass Championship. The winner is automatically put on the lie detector. We've won it 5 times. I've gone on their lie detector test 3 times, and my team partner for that tournament twice. So I've done that 3 times, and it's scary. And then I've also done, then FLW's put me at, well, FLW twice and then MLF this year. And those were just random. They do random polygraphs. They weren't necessarily, there was no protest against me. It was just one of those random, my number's up, it's time for me to be polygraphed. So, and of course, I passed all my polygraph, in case anybody's wondering, passed them all, no issues. My partner Joe, he passed his, no issues, everything's cool. And why wouldn't we? Because we do it on the up and up. So, anyhow, but it is, my point is, it's a scary thing because, I mean, I don't know the science behind the polygraph. I have no clue what that is. So it's a big unknown. And I'm going in, first of all, there's a lot at stake when I go into a polygraph. Not the tournament. In the case of Fort Francis, it's the tournament win. You know, if for whatever reason this polygraph says I'm failing, there goes my tournament winnings. But then there goes your reputation. More importantly, really, because everything you've won in the past is now thrown out the windows. It's no longer credible. And it's so scary because this one person running this machine that I completely don't understand, and you see all these wiggles and lines on the paper or on the computer screen, totally don't know what it means, totally don't understand how they come up with this, but yet this person running this polygraph has complete, in their hands, they have complete control, or I mean, everything, my entire career and credibility and reputation is now on the shoulders of this person sitting across from me, reading out these electrical disturbances on this computer, these electrical disturbances that I'm generating, my breathing rhythms. And I'm actually nervous as hell when I do these things, because knowing what's at stake. My reputation, my credibility, and then whatever prize money might be, on the table. But that's secondary to the rest, because the legacy I'm leaving behind is based on, the performance, the wins that I've had, and to lose all that would mean everything. It'd be like, it would mean my past, since I started professional fishing in 1995, just all that time would be just thrown down the toilet, and that would be a huge loss for me, a huge loss. And all that is sitting on the shoulders of the person reading out, interpreting these electrical impulses on their computer. Freaking scary stuff, really scary. So, but anyways, the polygraph to me is something that's it's got to be in place. We got to have it. And it's got to be utilized. Don't just bluff with it, use it. What else? Of course, there's always, the format where you catch, weigh, and then release the fish. That's going to prevent people from stuffing lead down the fish. Because if you got a boat official there, you catch the fish, the boat official's there, he can weigh it, and then the fish is released. There's no alteration of the fish possible. So that's probably a slightly better format as far as preventing cheaters. What else? Rule enforcement. That's another thing I got to mention. Tournament organization, tournament officials, they need to back up the rule violations with enforcement. There's been some there's sketchy things that happen sometimes as far as rule enforcement. Inadequate rule enforcement has been an issue at times, I think. For example, let's take what happened. The first thing that comes to mind is what happened with Jeff Sprague on the Bass Pro Tour. Okay, I'm not happy at all with the enforcement there. The guy literally got caught red-handed breaking a major rule, and I'm not the only one with this opinion, because I've talked about half a dozen Bass Pro Tour anglers that actually compete against Jeff Sprague. They're all pissed off about this, about the lack of enforcement, there was a penalty handed down to Jeff Sprague, but it did not fit what he did. By his violation of the rule, the no information rule, he garnered a competitive advantage, a major competitive advantage by what he did. And he went on to use that competitive advantage. He went on to use the information he gathered illegally to post a high finish in a tournament. How long has he been doing this? And why wasn't the penalty more severe? They took away his winnings for that tournament and his points, but this is, to me, that's like a ban, some kind of ban. I just assume he's gone. There's no telling how many times he's done this. I don't want the guy around. I don't want to compete against him. The guy should have been gone. But FLW, and then here's the other thing. It wasn't FLW, sorry, MLF. Here's the other thing. They had this information, MLF. They had this information it wasn't long after the completion of the tournament, which I think was in February or March. They didn't make this ruling. They didn't come out with the press release and announce that this happened until August, July or August, something like that. Why did they sit on it for so long? As I mentioned earlier in this video, we want complete transparency. We want to know what's happening. But instead, they let this guy compete all the way through that time. And they're still left. And they did not kick him out of the trail. He's still competing on the Bass Pro Tour, which makes me, as an angler my goal was to fish in the Bass Pro Tour. That's why I've been fishing the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit the last few years. And now I seriously ask myself, do I want to get to the Bass Pro Tour and compete against a guy that knowingly, intentionally, is breaking rules? No, I don't. So, but, I'm really torn on that. But anyways, rule enforcement. Dang it, enforce the rules, okay? Not every rule violation is intentional. Not every rule violation warrants disqualification. But on major freaking rule violations that blatantly, that are first of all sneaky and underhanded violations and blatantly give a competitor some kind of big advantage, that's disqualification from that tournament, and that is disqualification from future tournaments as far as I'm concerned. You just don't do that stuff. So, but like I said, not every rule violation it warrants disqualification, because you have to consider intent. You got to consider, if a guy, we have a rule violation that says you got to have your life jacket zipped up when the engine's running. So if a guy sits down, puts his life jacket on, turns on the engine, and then zips up his life jacket, that's, by the letter of the law, he violated the rule because he didn't have it zipped when he turned the engine on, but he zipped it up like 2 seconds later after the engine was on. So a violation like that, to me, is not worthy of disqualification, but it is a rule violation and a penalty of some kind Maybe it's ounces to your total, maybe it's time off of next day's competition, whatever. But anyhow, the point was, not every rule warrants disqualification. You have to consider the significance of the violation, the intent of the violation, the underhanded and sneakiness of the violation, and what the violation is. But anyhow, enforce those rules. So another thing that tournament directors, organizations can do is they can provide cameras to the anglers who are going out and fishing by themselves. Because what we're seeing is on some of the tournaments I've participated on Major Leagues Fishing's Tackle Pro Circuit, they couldn't get enough marshals, so a lot of us were going out by ourselves, nobody else in the boat. Okay, to me that's a problem. I don't like it, especially literally like half the competitors are in some of these tournaments are not having marshals. So they should provide cameras, okay, for us to use. They made a rule that we have to have our own camera, which we all do. But and this is kind of slippery, because what happens, and nobody's, every time I'm by myself, well, actually, whether I have a marshal or not, I always have a camera, and I always have a camera with. Now, what I have done in the past is I've forgotten to turn it on. So I'll fish the first 2 hours and then realize, there'll be a couple fish catches, hopefully, in those first 2 hours, and they won't be on film. Or sometimes it just shuts off halfway through the day. So when I get back to my camper that night and I'm swapping SD cards, I'm like, oh, this has only got 4 hours of coverage on it. It shut off halfway through the day. So what happens if okay, before we get to that part, I guess what I'm going to say is I've never been checked. They've had this rule where you needed a camera for like 3 or 4 years, but I've never been checked. They've never asked me, hey, can we see your SD card? But now I'm wondering what would happen if they did ask for it and I've only got half the day on my SD card. What would happen then? Complete disqualification? I'm not a cameraman. I don't know when that thing's on and off. I try to remember to turn it on. I guess it's my own fault if I don't turn it on. It'd be my own fault. But if the thing shuts off for a half hour and then I check it and I notice it's been off for the last half hour, halfway through the day, is that my fault? I'd rather have their equipment that they know and they've checked and they know it's reliable. I don't know. That camera thing's kind of good. It's kind of iffy, because you could position the camera where you position the camera. You can still have dead spots in the field of view where shenanigans could go on. How do you know somebody's not? If you're by yourself, the camera's not going to see somebody coming up from behind you and handing you a 10-pound fish. It's whatever. It comes down. We gotta. Cheating's always going to go on, and thank God, at the level I fish, most all those guys are upstanding guys, thankfully. So, but anyhow, okay, what can the competitors do to minimize and reduce the occurrence of cheating? Okay, we have to, first of all, consider the trail you're getting into. All right, what's the reputation of the trail you're getting into? That's kind of hard to get sometimes, but if there's something. Now, maybe, boy, that's kind of an iffy area though, because after watching Jason Fisher handle his incident on his walleye trail, I'd have no problem entering his trail, because I saw how he handled it. I saw what he did. This guy wants to catch cheaters. He wants to expose them. That's what I want out of the tournament organization. That I mean, they don't want, he didn't want to catch, I mean, he doesn't want to find cheaters in his organization, but when they're there, he wants to catch them. That's a better way to word that. So anyways, and that's what I like to see. I don't want to see cover-ups. I don't want to see, behind the scene. I don't want to hear rumors from behind the scene stuff. Just don't want that. So that's consideration. The other things you need to consider is there's tournaments out there where it's just individuals fishing by themselves. If you know each one of those guys, even if you know each one of those guys, I mean, how well do you know them? It's, that's just, if you're in a tournament where there's a bunch of guys fishing alone, who knows what's going on, okay? Who knows? All it takes is one guy to just completely buzzkill it all. And like in kayak tournaments, when I was researching on Google, man, there's guys getting busted and cheating in kayak tournaments. Guys cutting fish in half, making fish look longer than they really appear. Just gross freaking violations. And those are individual tournaments. Those guys are out there in the middle of nowhere by themselves, and they don't weigh the fish. It's all done on length. So with kayak tournaments, it's all done with the length. So they catch the fish, they have to take a picture of it on the board and send it in to the officials. Well, guys were cutting tails from other fish and then covering up the portion where it's just weird stuff. So in essence, they're making the fish appear. The picture they're taking was looking as though the fish was longer than what it really was, because they had this cut tail from another fish that was covering up the real tail of the fish they just caught. So they add like an extra inch and a half or whatever to the catch. So, and who knows what an individual, there's no telling what an individual with no eyes on them is capable of doing. Not everybody's honest. We know that. Most of us are. But there's always those few frickin' clowns that ruin it. Now, a team tournament where you pick your partner, that's still kind of risky. That there might be one team that's got to ruin it for everybody. But when you think about it, it's really not that hard. You get two brothers get together, or a father and a kid, or two best buddies get together, whatever. They get in cahoots on this deal, and next thing you know, they're just like the Runyon and Comiskey. Next thing you know, they're freaking stealing money from tournaments and other people in the tournaments. So the safest tournament is the random draw tournament. That's where the two anglers who don't know one another are randomly drawn and put in a boat. That's the safest way, because now you got two guys that don't know one another, and it would be really ballsy for one of them to suggest, hey, let's stuff some lead weights down our fish. It'd be really ballsy and really risky, and because most of us guys are legit, and if somebody ever said that to me, I'd be on the phone with the tournament official immediately. And 99.9% of the other guys that compete against me or with me, whatever, however you want to state it, they'd be the same way. So that random draw type tournament, whether it's a pro or pro and amateur together, that's the way to do it. That's the lowest. That's where you're gonna have your lowest incidence of cheating. But however, some guys have figured out ways to get around that, unfortunately, with hidden compartments in boats, with fish tethered off on lines to stumps, and fish baskets with holes in them, just whatever, just crazy stuff. So, all right, what else can we do? Self-policing, of course, that's what I'm kind of alluded to. Each competitor's just got to be aware of just unusual stuff happening. Just be aware of that, hey, cheating exists, be aware of it. Don't be naive to it. Don't bury your head. Don't think of yourselves as a snitch. If you do see somebody blatantly cheating, let's say there's an off limits on a lake and you see a guy coming in the shore to the boat landing that ain't supposed to be out there, you need to report that stuff. That's, that's how this stuff gets policed. What else? And then read and understand the rules. Every competitor needs to read and understand the rules, so when they do recognize a violation, they can report it. Oh gosh, what else? Okay, then a note on the marshal. Same with the marshals and co-anglers. Marshals are boat officials that don't fish. Co-anglers are amateurs who do fish. But these guys, it's one of their main reasons why they like co-anglers or amateurs in tournaments that get paired with pros. Really, the whole reason why you even exist in that form is because we need officials for these tournaments. We need eyes on every one of these pros. So as a co-angler, you're there to have fun. You're there to learn from your pro, have a good time, catch a few fish. But don't ever forget that we need you there as officials as well. So if you see a violation, it needs to be reported. You're not a snitch. Don't think you have to ingratiate yourself to the pro that you're with. He's not above the rules. If something happens, if he violates something, you gotta let it know to the tournament. You gotta let the tournament officials know. So, same with the marshals. Just marshals and co-anglers, just know the rules. Know where there's a violation. Know what's cool. Be aware. So, I'm sure there's other ways. Did I mention the metal detectors? Yes, I did, I believe. I'm sure there's other things I haven't thought of, but cheating is a real thing in any sport. All we can do is, and it's hard to police it in the sport of bass fishing and tournament fishing. It's hard to police it, so we just have to do the best we can. These are my suggestions. I'm sure there's other suggestions, and I'm sure there's maybe some criticisms of what I said. I'm always welcome to criticism. I keep an open mind. But thanks for watching, and don't be afraid. If you've never been in a tournament, don't be afraid to enter a tournament. Most guys are legit, and when I say most, I'm talking like 99.9%. So don't be afraid to get involved in tournament fishing. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of good things that come about it, as far as, there's just the communities benefit from tournaments. Businesses and the community, not all businesses, but certain businesses, the places where you sleep, the places where you buy gas, places where you eat, they benefit. And then a lot of times there's charity tournaments. So those are good things too. Fishing tournaments have over the years, raised a lot of money for various tournaments or for various charities. So tournament fishing is, and then just the camaraderie, the friends you get to know, hang out with, swap fishing stories with. That's valuable life experiences. So don't be afraid to enter a tournament. Everybody 99.9% of us want a clean, fair tournament. That's what we're after. That's what we're looking for. So it's not a bunch of thugs out there. Anyways, that's it. Over.